Good afternoon or good day. It's really a pleasure to be with you. Um, I'm a little different in that I'm not an objectivist intellectual. I used objectivism for a very successful business career, grew a very successful business using the principles embodied in objectivism, and fortunately made a lot of money, which is nothing wrong with that. Um, I grew up in a lower middle income family. I was the first person in my family to ever graduate from college. I joined BB&T in 1971 when it was a little farm bank. Um, I became chairman and CEO in 1989. And during my 20-year tenure as chairman and CEO, BB&T grew from $4.5 billion to $150 billion to become the 10th largest financial institution in the U.S. We outperformed basically all of our peers. We went through the financial crisis without a single quarterly loss. We were clearly in the top 10% of financial institutions in the world. People would have said that was impossible when I became CEO, and it was only possible because of the philosophy by which we ran our organization. We had a philosophy based on objectivism, kind of from a layman's perspective. When I joined the bank, it was pretty much outdated. It was run by a lot of old people who realized that there was no management succession and the bank was going to get merged in the consolidating industry. So one of my first jobs was to set up a leadership development program, and I'd just been out of college myself. And with a friend of mine, we developed that program and we incorporated reading Atlas Shrugged in the program. And so over the years, all the leadership of BB&T read Atlas Shrugged. And when I retired, we had 30-something thousand employees. And we didn't expect people to always agree with Atlas Shrugged, but it did influence, I think, significantly our management and leadership team. And in the process, it was also selection. If you really didn't like Atlas Shrugged, you probably weren't going to fit at BB&T. We developed what we call the BB&T philosophy. We actually published a booklet, which was taking objectivism and writing it in layman's terms as applied to the banking industry. And we use that booklet to train our key leaders. We developed performance appraisals, which all organizations have. And in our performance appraisal, half of it was what I'd call production goals. How many loans did you make? How did you control costs? But it also included the basic values and ethics of objectivism, or that is incorporated in the BB&T philosophy. And I never found a performance problem that wasn't related to some kind of violation of the ethics or principles of objectivism. We would try to retrain people and had a lot of success in retraining people. But if somebody violated our ethics, we fired them. I don't care if they'd been there 20 years and they'd done a great job. Yeah, because we knew that if you had ethical violations, you couldn't run a business in the long term. I visited our branches. We had an extensive branch network throughout the Southeast. And in those visits, we would talk about the BB&T philosophy. We did quarterly videos, and in the videos, we talk about, how do we get more loans, how do we make more deposits, but we also talked about the BB&T values and reinforce those values over and over again. In contrast to a lot of our competitors, we took our marketing budget and created what we call the BB&T University. And we had lifelong learning for all of our employees, no matter what their position was, if they wanted to go through that process. But in every one of our training programs, we not only taught the technical skills, of course you had to be technically proficient, but we also reinforced the BB&T philosophy. What we found is that we had the lowest turnover of any major financial institution in the U.S. Our employees stayed with us. And secondly, we had the best retention of clients. And one reason our business was so profitable is people kept doing business with us. When you have highly trained people and they believe in the ethics by which you're running your business, you can produce superior outcomes. We took Rand's philosophy, her combination of both her values and her virtues, and combined them into what we call the BB&T core values: reality, reason, independent thinking, productivity, honesty, integrity, justice, pride, self-esteem. And we also included teamwork, which she doesn't talk much about, but it's implicit in her philosophy and absolutely necessary in a business. Let me take a second and kind of communicate to you, kind of an abbreviated version, how we might communicate objectivist virtues. And the three great virtues of objectivism are purpose, reason, and self-esteem. Purpose is the organizing principle of human action. For organizations to be successful, whether they be businesses or churches or community organizations, they absolutely need a sense of purpose. And BB&T was a very purpose-driven business. And our purpose was literally to make the world a better place to live by helping our clients achieve economic success and financial security, by creating a place where our employees could learn, grow, and be fulfilled in their work, by making the communities where we work better places to be, and thereby optimizing the long-term return to our shareholders while creating a safe and sound investment. Now, we weren't confused. In a free market, our primary obligation is to our shareholders. However, shareholders are a result. The cause of that superior return was first doing a great job for our clients. That's where all our revenue came from. To do a great job for our clients, we needed great people. We had to have people that were really vested in helping our clients. And we did all that within the context of our communities, not from an altruistic perspective, but because if our communities didn't do well, we wouldn't do well. So we created superior shareholder returns by focusing on clients and employees and communities. Just like organizations need a sense of purpose, we pointed out to our employees that they needed a sense of purpose. In fact, one of the things I find most discouraging is how many people in their 50s, and you ask them about their work, and it's obvious their work is just some kind of burden. They don't have any passion or energy in their work. Well, if you're going to be happy, you need passion and energy in your work. So we focused on creating a sense of purpose in our employees. And purpose for us had two components. First, I believe that everybody watching this video, and the vast majority of people on this planet, want to make the world a better place to live. I think that's a natural human attribute. There are lots of ways to do that in businesses. You don't have to feed hungry children in Bangladesh. In businesses, we make better products and services. Good lawyers make the world a better place to live. Good teachers, good objectivist intellectuals make the world a better place to live. But you need to believe that what you're doing is making the world a better place to live. The second component of purpose, though, is far under discussed. You need to make the world a better place to live doing something you want to do for you. You have a fundamental right to your own life. And if you were to make the world a better place to live, but you didn't enjoy doing it, you'd have wasted the most precious thing you have, which is you. So we tried to inspire a sense of purpose in our employees, making the world a better place to live, but doing something they want to do for themselves. The means by which we make the world a better place to live is our ability to think. We use the word reason. Everything that's alive has a method of staying alive. A lion has claws to hunt with. A deer has speed to avoid the hunter. We have the capacity to think. And our capacity to think is literally our only means of survival, success, and happiness. Now, we have some very smart people, but this is really not about having high IQ. In fact, one thing I find, I teach in a university now, and a lot of smart people don't have much common sense. But our challenge was to all of our employees to commit themselves to being lifelong learners, to constantly trying to get better at what they were doing. And people that are lifelong learners, that have active minds, they read more, they take more advantage of educational seminars, but they also learn primarily from experience. As human beings, we are superior experiential learners if we choose to be. And we challenged our employees in that regard. And what we found is that as human beings, we tend to make mistakes and then make them again because we refuse to learn from our mistakes. And that's because a lot of times we evade. Evasion occurs when you're presented with some piece of information that you know needs to be examined. You refuse to examine it. We try to create the kind of discipline. It was hard to evade, and we found that people that refused to evade learned a lot faster. The second thing is that you got to be paying attention to what's going on. I would visit our branches and have lunches with our local advisory board members who were successful business and community leaders, and I never had a boring lunch because they were always asking me questions and providing me feedback because they had active minds. One of the great philosophical issues is, do we have free will? And the answer to that question to me is obvious. We have free will. We have to make choices. In fact, we've been making choices since we were very young, and we have to make choices very frequently. We have to exercise our free will very frequently. So what we found is that a lot of times when presented with information that people don't like, they'll phase out. They won't hear. So we encourage people to exercise their free will by having an active mind, and in that process being committed to learning. What I found is that people that refused to evade and had an active mind, exercising their free will, learned a lot faster than other people and were much more productive. When you're clear about your purpose, when you use your capacity to think to accomplish your purpose, you get to do something very important. You get to raise your self-esteem. And real self-esteem is the foundation for happiness. And happiness is the end of the game, right? I mean, happiness in the Aristotelian sense of a life well lived. What I call blood, sweat, and tears happiness. When you're 80 years old, you can look back and say, man, that was tough. And I'm glad I did it. And we had as a conscious objective, we wanted our employees to be happy. Now, they had to earn happiness. You can't make anybody happy, but we wanted to create the opportunity to do that. And that requires true self-esteem. Self-esteem is fundamentally self-confidence in your ability to live and be successful, given the facts of reality. You earn self-esteem by living your life with integrity. Work can be an incredibly important driver of self-esteem. And that's one of the challenges we offer to our employees often. You spend a disproportionate amount of time, effort, and energy at work. So, and I use work in the broadest context. Raising children, very important, very hard work. Whatever you choose your work to be, what makes it important is it drives your self-esteem. Something that I would say to our employees often, it's very important to BB&T that you do your job well. But it is far, far more important to you that you do your job well. You might fool me, you might fool your boss, but you'll never fool you. If you don't do your work the best you can do it, given your level of skill and given your level of knowledge, you'll lower your self-esteem. On the other hand, if you do your work the best you can possibly do it, given your level of skill, given your level of knowledge, you will raise your self-esteem, which is more important than getting more money or a promotion, because it's about your character. It's about who you are fundamentally as a human being. We reinforce these objectivist virtues, purpose, reason, and self-esteem over and over again, and a lot more deeper than I've just gone through now with our employees. And I am absolutely certain it dramatically improved the performance of our organization, and it made our employees happier people. We also wanted to spread the message to the community. Banks traditionally have been contributors to universities and educational programs. And we started looking at what we were doing, and it was interesting that we were probably wasting our money. And we did some research, and we decided that the fundamental question that impacted business is that people didn't necessarily believe that business was ethical, that it was moral. So we ended up creating 62 programs at universities in our market area on what we called the moral foundations of capitalism. And the real question we were asking is capitalism an ethical system? What we found is most people realize that capitalism produced a better outcome in terms of goods and services, but they somehow believed the system was unethical. And our question is, how does an unethical system produce better outcomes? Obviously, we believe capitalism was ethical. In these programs, we required the students that took the course read Atlas Shrugged. We had about 25,000 students a year going through these programs, and we would ask them at the end of the program. They had to give us some feedback. Thousands of these students every year would say this course changed their whole worldview. It was interesting. Most of these ended up being business majors who had struggled getting into philosophy departments. And they would say, you know, in none of my business courses have we really talked about capitalism from an ethical perspective. We haven't discussed capitalism from an ethical perspective. And that's interesting when you think about it. That's interesting when you think about it. I know that a number of people here are going to become philosophy professors or other professors, and I really wish you the best. I will say this: my experience and the experience in working at BB&T is objectivism, properly understood and properly executed, is a huge competitive advantage in life, not only in terms of success, but more important in terms of happiness. So understanding the objectivist values, understanding the objectivist virtues is well worth it, whether you become a philosophy professor or not.